So you want to upgrade your car audio system and you think to yourself, you know, the speakers make the sound, so surely that would be the best place to start an upgrade, right? You buy those aftermarket speakers and you swap them in and you go to turn them on for the first time and it doesn't sound as good as it did before. Why is this and how can we avoid this issue? I'm Mark, welcome to CarAudioFabrication, the channel where together we learn how to master car audio and how to design, build, and install our dream car audio system. Let's get into it. Real quick, before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsor for this episode, Audio Control. Audio Control makes a wide variety of different car audio amplifiers and system integration gear, like line output converters and digital signal processors. If you're looking for a solid amplifier upgrade though that doesn't take up a lot of space and doesn't put a huge strain on your electrical system, you're definitely going to want to check out the ACM lineup. These amplifiers have impressive sound quality and other features that make for an easy install. Learn more about the ACM lineup at the links down in the video description. So let's get into this. Why is it when you only swap in new speakers into a car audio system that it doesn't sound as good? Well, first off, a common mistake that is made is people will use a different size speaker than the stock one. As an example, if you take a 6.5-inch round speaker and compare it to a 6x9 speaker, and let's say that they're both operating on the same amount of power, the 6x9 speaker is going to have more output and be louder. Now, a lot of times people will associate output with sounding better, so they'll say that if something is louder, they tend to favor it more and think that it sounds better. So that's something that you definitely want to consider is the actual size of the speaker that you're replacing. Now, with that said, I myself tend to favor round speakers more than oval speakers. In my opinion, round speakers tend to have a more accurate sound reproduction, so that's something you have to consider, that if you're going for that round shape, you're losing that cone area and it's not going to likely be as loud, unless we consider some of these other things that we're going to talk about. Another mistake is a lot of times aftermarket speakers are not as efficient as the stock speaker. When a car manufacturer is speccing out what speakers they want to use for their stock system, odds are they're going to pick a speaker that is very efficient, meaning it's going to create more output with the same amount of power in comparison to a less efficient speaker. So if you were to compare aftermarket speakers to stock speakers, a lot of times aftermarket speakers are not as efficient, which means, again, if all you're doing is swapping in some aftermarket speakers for the stock ones, it's likely not going to be as loud. Now, you may be wondering though, if aftermarket speakers are supposed to be better, why are they less efficient? Well, what you have to understand is that in speaker design, everything is a trade-off. And a lot of times the features that you want that will allow a speaker to sound a lot better come at the cost of being less efficient. Everything in speaker design is a balancing act. So when you are picking out aftermarket speakers, if you know that all you're doing is just replacing the speakers and not adding any additional amplification, you should definitely consider the efficiency values when you're making that purchase. Now, another reason that the stock speakers can oftentimes sound better than the aftermarket speakers is when the car manufacturers are designing this audio system, they're designing it to use the exact speakers that they've spec'd out. One of the things that car manufacturers commonly do now is they will have a built-in equalizer. In other words, they will control the response of the music that's playing through their stock speakers in order to make them sound as good as possible. As a car manufacturer, this is a really good way to take some super cheap speakers and make them sound moderately acceptable. But when you go to replace those speakers with aftermarket speakers and you swap them in, if you still have that factory stock EQ curve that's being sent to those speakers, then sometimes they're not going to sound as good because they weren't designed to use that EQ curve. This is one of the big reasons that if you are using that factory source signal for your car audio system, you want to be able to negate that factory EQ curve and do your own tuning with a device like a DSP. A DSP is a digital signal processor. If you guys want to learn more about that topic, I have several videos here on the channel. My biggest tip for you, if you want to upgrade to aftermarket speakers in your car audio system, definitely consider adding external amplification. I think a lot of times people want to avoid adding an amplifier because they have this preconceived notion that, amplifiers are only for if I want to be super loud or if I want everyone in the block hearing my music. But that is not the case. Adding an amplifier to the system is going to allow you to send more power to those speakers, allowing you to really play them at their full potential. Additionally, since an amplifier gives you that ability to have more power, you can listen at the same listening level versus your stock system, and the amplifier is not going to be working as hard. So the biggest takeaways, if you're upgrading and adding those aftermarket speakers, definitely consider external amplification, and if you're not, definitely take a look at those efficiency values and the speaker size. So there we have it. Now, as a side note, next time you are looking to get an amplifier for your car audio system, again, definitely be sure to check out our show sponsor, Audio Control. You can learn more at the link down in the video description. A big thanks to them, along with Jerry, William, and the rest of the Patreon membership team. A big thanks to all those guys for making these videos possible, and thank you guys, of course, for tuning in and watching.